Perfect. Awesome. So, welcome everyone. First workshop for Onchain Squad. I'm super hyped about this. Today we have Taylor from the Base team, senior DevRel at Base, to go over building on Base. And it's going to be a quick 15-minute lightning talk. If you have any questions, post it in the chat. We'll try to answer them during the workshop. There's also Q&A at the end. Um, and yeah, I won't take up too much of our time, Taylor. Let's get right to you.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, everyone. So let me actually see if you guys can see this in slideshow mode. Does that look good? Awesome. So, hey, everyone. My name's Taylor. I'm a developer advocate for the Base team at Coinbase. And yeah, thank you guys for inviting me on Chain Squad Learn Web3 for 30 days of Web3 to help you guys build and get contributing into the developer ecosystem. Today, I'm going to actually be talking about how to get started building on Base and how you can actually contribute to the Base ecosystem. So just as an overview of what I'm going to cover today, I'm going to provide you guys with a quick overview on what Base is. After that, after my primer on Base, I'll actually cover how you can actually get started building on Base. And then most importantly, for 30 Days Web3, how you can actually contribute back to the Base ecosystem through your journey in 30 Days of Web3 after you learn how to build on Base. And then if we have time at the end, I'd love to take any questions you guys might have regarding Base. So before I can actually get started on Base itself, I need to provide you guys with a little primer on Coinbase itself as a company. So at Coinbase, our mission is to increase economic freedom in the world. And what this means to us is to do things like enable property rights for people so that they can own what they own, provide stable currencies to people so that the value of their money doesn't get inflated away. Also free trade, so being able to send and receive money across borders, no matter where you are in the world, and also providing equal access to financial services to people no matter where they're in the world as well. So we've actually been on this journey at Coinbase for around 10 years now, or ever since we were a company. We started off as a centralized exchange, and ever since then we've kind of evolved the company and have brought the company more and more on chain to actually pursue this mission of increasing economic freedom in the world. So we started off as an exchange, allowing people to buy, sell, trade crypto. Along this journey, we found out that there were also a lot of other problems that there were to solve. So things like providing trusted stable coins to people in the crypto economy so that if you're buying crypto, you're handling crypto, you don't have to off ramp back into USD. You can still stay within the economy using trusted stable coins without having to, endure the volatility of crypto. As an exchange, we also heard a lot about people wanting access to their assets and not keeping them on the exchange itself. They wanted self-custodial solution. So we provided them with Coinbase Wallet in 2018. And then more recently, through liquid staking and other efforts, we evolved in other areas as well, such as CBETH for liquid staking and continuing to push the envelope with things like MPC wallets. And that kind of brings us to today, where we're actually developing our own L2 known as Base. And the reason we're doing all this, you'll hear a lot of the time we'll use the word on-chain, and we'll say our phrase that we like to use is on-chain is the next online. And the reason for this is because if you think back towards like the pre-internet era, you had two things, right? You had information and money, and both of these things were actually managed by central gatekeepers. So if you wanted access to certain information, you had to go specifically to, one company, whether you wanted to find someone's address and information, you have to go to the Yellow Pages. If you wanted to rent or watch a movie, you'd have to go out and rent that movie, right? And then with the evolution of the internet, information itself actually became open and permissionless and globally accessible through things like Google and search engines and AWS and all of the social media sites. In a click of a button, you could have access to information, and it was no longer gate kept. But the same isn't true for money today. And we're still moving that needle forward and making money more open and accessible to people. And We believe the best way to do this is to bring the world, similar to how we brought information online. We believe that bringing money and, transactions and all that on chain is the way to do this. And yeah, using crypto. So you'll hear us use this word a lot, on chain. On chain is next online, and that's kind of what that means. And we're actually making progress in this. If you look at Ethereum's data today, you'll see that on-chain users are continuing to grow. This is a chart for L1 Ethereum mainnet. It's up and to the right. Not only are the users continuing to grow, but the developers are continuing to grow as well, and that's kind of what's driving these users or this use case. So the developer chart is obviously a little bit more bumpy. We have more bear markets and bull markets that kind of inspire developers to build and not build between certain periods of time. But the trend is up and to the right for Ethereum. But when it comes to our mission of bringing like the world on chain, we're still very, very far from it. There's 8 billion people in the world, and if you look at the data, less than 10 million people are on chain today, which is like a tenth of all Coinbase users. So we're still very far from this mission, and there's a lot to do. So we actually have a mission ourselves on the base team, and that's the mission is to bring over 1 million developers on chain, and if we think if we have over a million developers, we can help drive to bring over 1 billion users on chain as well, because we'll be building out those use cases. So the mission here is to enable incredible products by creating a world-class on-chain developer platform where developers like you and me can build these use cases out and drive developers and the world to be more on-chain. So that's why we built Base, which is our layer 2. So Ethereum and L1s today are not really that scalable. They're still very expensive to transact on. Not fast enough for some use cases. So L2s will help, drive down costs. It'll bring up transaction times, and it'll allow more real use cases that users want to use to actually be a reality. And we think Base as an L2, as Coinbase, as the company, with our user base, we believe that we can use this to actually as a bridge to bridge people from, the real world to on-chain by integrating it into our products in a seamless manner. So that's what Base is. Base is an L2. To get more technical, Base is built on the OP stack with Optimism. So if some of you are familiar with Optimism, it's another L2. And the Optimism team actually open sourced their stack to allow other people to build L2s as well. So now we have this like ecosystem of L2s known as the superchain, and Base is part of that. So yeah, we built on the OP stack, and we're actually a second core contributor of the OP stack, which means that anything we build as a team to enhance Base as an L2, we can actually bring that back into the OP stack as well to help move the ecosystem of the superchain forward as well, which is actually pretty cool. And as at Base, we actually contribute to open source and public goods as well by bringing those improvements back into the OP stack, and furthering decentralization. So let's see. And one other question we have when we talk about Base is like, why did we build an Ethereum L2? And this like kind of covers that. So over the years, we've always kind of had the idea of building like a chain. We weren't sure if it was going to be an L1 or an L2. But over the years, we kind of made a few observations. And one of those is that the EVM ecosystem or the Ethereum ecosystem actually already has like 10 times the amount of devs and dApps and total value locked compared to any other L1 or platform out there right now. And it also has a really good scalable plan to scale for the future. So if you look at like the plans one example of this is there's a scaling plan for bringing down transaction fees to a fraction of a cent, known as 4844, which is also known as like proto-dank sharding, and that'll bring down transaction fees to a fraction of a cent to unlock more use cases. And because of this, if you look back at the chart, like we have the user growth, the developer growth in Ethereum, and it's just where all the action's happening. So that's kind of the reasoning of why we're building an L2 on Ethereum. So we've seen these charts before, but one chart I didn't share with you guys before is that transactions are also continuing to grow. So this is an interesting chart actually, because you can see that the blue line is Ethereum and all the transactions on Ethereum, and it kind of plateaued at a certain point over the years. And what's actually happened is transactions are now moving up to L2s like Base. And this just shows like where the users are going, right? And where all the action's happening. So we're moving towards an L2 future where all the developers and transactions happening are happening on L2 just because it makes the most sense. It's fast, cheap, and yeah. Not only are transactions growing, or the use cases are growing as well, and this is kind of what's driving the transactions. So on Base itself, we have a few use cases that we're seeing continue to grow. So on Base, we have things like FriendTech, which is a kind of social app on chain. It brings like social media and connecting with your friends and chats on chain. We see other real world use cases as well, such as Blackbird with restaurant loyalty. For the gamers in the audience, we also have Parallel, who's building a card game. So if you're familiar with like Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone, they're doing something similar, but on chain where the cards are, collectible NFTs and stuff like that. And then we also have things like art. So one of the killer use cases that came out of our launch for Base was an app called Base Paints, where the community can contribute each day to on a piece of art that gets minted on chain each day. It's really cool. And then finally, we also have Stand with Crypto, which is our advocacy on chain. So you can mint a NFT that shows that you stand with crypto and provide information with how you can actually support the crypto ecosystem when it comes to things like politics and advocacy in a crypto forward way. So the consumer use cases on Base are actually continue to grow. There's a lot of opportunity here for developers. And here on this slide, you can see there's 100 plus dApps live today on Base, and it just keeps growing. If you're interested to see everything that's built on Base, you can go ahead and visit base.org/ecosystem to see. We have a list of everyone who's building infrastructure, everyone who's building dApps for DeFi are listed there, gaming, media, social, you name it, it's on there. It's a huge ecosystem, so I encourage you guys to check it out, get inspired in what you can build. Yeah. So that's kind of like an overview on Base. As a developer who's going through your Web3 journey or your 30 days of Web3 journey, let's talk about how you can actually get started building on Base, right? So the best way that I like to point people to build on Base is through our developer documentation. So we have a full set of developer documentation that provides you with things like the network information. All of the partners I showed before that are building on Base, that are building tooling, are also listed on our documentation. So if you're looking for a specific way to accomplish something or build something on Base, it's listed there. This is probably the number one resource I would point developers to get started. We have over, I think, 16 guides now on how to build. Here's a couple of example tutorials. So we have a variety of different difficulty skill level tutorials. So to start for like beginner developers, if you're just starting out, we have tutorials on how to deploy smart contracts, how to run nodes locally, how to connect to the blockchain, and how to build out the front end of your dApp. Everything you need to know is in these quick start tutorials. And then also, if you are more of an intermediate or advanced developer, we have tutorials for you as well. So if you want to learn how to access real world data on chain in your smart contracts, we have things like guides for how to consume oracles. And then also, if you deploy a smart contract to Base and you want to be able to make it communicate with other chains like Optimism, we have tutorials for that as well for cross-chain messaging. Another really good resource outside of our documentation is actually a curriculum that we developed called Basecamp that can also be found on our doc site at docs.base.org/basecamp. So it's a smart contract development curriculum that's more structured. So if you're more of a structured learning, or if you're more of a structured learner and you want like a course curriculum with like videos and that kind of takes you on the journey from being a developer that, is just starting off in their journey all the way to like a full-fledged advanced on-chain dApp developer, this is a really good resource. At Coinbase, we actually use this internally for teaching people how to build on Base and how to get started. Believe it or not, at Coinbase, only a fraction of our engineers actually do smart contract development. So this is actually like part of our training that we use to bring everyone on chain internally at the company. I would say once you have gone through our documentation, you've done a few tutorials, maybe you've went through the Basecamp curriculum and you now consider yourself to be a Base developer, you're ready to contribute back to the ecosystem. So let's get an overview of how you can actually take what you've learned and bring it back in and make contributions. So the best way to contribute to the Base ecosystem is actually through our GitHub and contributing through open source. So you can find our GitHub at base-org or at github.com/base.org. And what I've done for you guys is we actually opened a few issues under the Discord, or not Discord, under the GitHub and marked them with good first issue. So if you visit, for example, our developer documentation GitHub repo at github.com/base-org/web, you'll actually find a list of issues with this label called good first issue. And what I would suggest if you're just starting off in your journey, I think a good path forward would be to go through one of the tutorials, learn how to build on Base, visit our documentation, and like get an idea of how to actually like build. And then once you do that and take a look at the tutorials, and while you're learning in your journey, if you see any like typos or any mistakes or things that are just not clear within the documentation itself, that's a really good opportunity to contribute back and open an issue or open a PR that'll like fix the issue and then contribute that back. And then if you're going through, for example, like a tutorial or Basecamp and you get inspired of like a new tutorial that can be created, you can contribute a new tutorial that teaches other developers how to build on Base as well. Yeah, I think they say, what's the saying? They say, you know something when you can teach others how to use it or explain it to someone else. And I think that's a pretty good saying, because if you go through a tutorial and you get inspired and you can teach someone else what you've built, then you know that you've gained knowledge there, right? So yeah, so that's basically how you can contribute. You can visit our documentation. You can contribute back through GitHub. Here's a chart that we saw before, just with a line that's going up and to the right. We hope that you can help contribute to our Base journey and helping bring developers on chain. So, let's continue getting this chart up and to the right. And yeah, thank you guys. So I'm Taylor Caldwell. Just a recap, so helpful resources. If you want to learn more about Base, visit base.org. If you want access to our developer documentation, it's available at docs.base.org. For social media, if you want to reach out to me or the team, we're available on Twitter at build. Actually, that's wrong. It's now Base. We actually changed the name. So on Twitter at /base. And then on GitHub, if you want to contribute to open source, you can visit our GitHub at base-org. And yeah, I guess I'll open the stage for questions if anyone has any questions about Base.
Amazing. I love that. I love that last slide, the one right before that, Jesse's projection on where this is going. I love to see that. We had a couple of questions. You already answered them. You read our minds, and when the questions were asked, the very next slides were answering them as well. So
Awesome.
all the ones that came up so far, they've been handled. If anybody else has any more questions, feel free to pop them in chat right now. I just want to mention one more thing. All the issues are tracked on the OSS tracker on the platform. Also, any contributions beyond good first issues are also valid as far as the challenge is concerned. So we track good first issues, but obviously if you're more of an intermediate or advanced developer and you're creating new tutorials like Taylor mentioned, all of those are also valid for the challenge. They will not be on the tracker, but you can still do those. I just wanted to clarify that because I've had a couple of people ask me that here and there. But yes, if anybody else has any more questions, we'll pop them in chat. Otherwise, we can start wrapping up. And thank you so much, Taylor. This is great.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Yeah, if you guys have any questions throughout the day about building on Base, I'll be available in the Discord and just reach out. And yeah, I'll be more than happy to help you guys.
Amazing, amazing, perfect. Okay, I see a couple of people typing. Just thank yous. Um, yes, thank you to the audience as well for being here. But yeah, there's no other questions. Yeah, you can tag Tay later if you have any questions for him, for me. Feel free to tag me. This is recorded, so I know some people joined in the middle. If you missed some part of it, we'll be posting this in the recordings channel shortly. But with that, uh, oh, uh, actually, there's one question. So prerequisites to build on base. Yeah, I know you kind of answered that in the slides. Maybe join a bit later if you want to take that, Taylor.
Yeah. So prerequisites to build on Base, there may be prerequisites like for like setting up your environment. So things like your node version, stuff like that. All of that's outlined in like our tutorials and guides on like what specific versions you'll need. But if you've done like Ethereum or EVM chain development before, a lot of the requirements will be the same with regards to Base.
100%. For the base docs, base camp, we also have some resources on Learn Web3. You can go check out. Feel free to ask us questions. You know, everybody's here to help each other out. So if you ever get stuck, feel free to ask questions in the chat as well. Any other questions? A couple people typing. I'm just waiting for them. Before diving in, what coding knowledge do I need to have to get started? Um, I can take that, or Taylor, if you want to take that. It's kind of similar to the last question.
Yeah, so I would say that so if you go through our Basecamp curriculum, it really assumes, I think it assumes that you just have like basic coding knowledge of like maybe Web 2 development, but it doesn't assume that you know anything about like Web 3 development yet, and it kind of guides you through um that. When it comes to the tutorials on our website, I don't think there's not really a need to know much. Like it'll guide you through like what commands you need to run and what you need to do to install things, and it'll give you an explanation of each of the steps. Um, so I wouldn't say there's like a prerequisite of coding knowledge. Um, I think it does probably a good or it provides a good explanation of like each step and what you're actually doing. So it might actually be a good resource to actually gain coding knowledge is to go through these tutorials.
Yep. And they mentioned they have knowledge of JavaScript, Java, and blockchain fundamentals. JS is perfect. JS, um, actually, I have a follow-up kind of to his question where the base org slash web repo where the issues are, where the good first issues were created, um, that's that's like the website, so JS knowledge is perfect for that. And I was wondering, Taylor, is there a contributing guide or like I'm assuming the README has steps on how to get that website up and running locally as well, right? So they can just follow that.
Yeah, so if you're actually contributing to the base.org/web repo, which is our documentation site repo, that's all in JavaScript, and the instructions to run it are in the README for the repo. Um, There are other repos as well that you can contribute under the base-org GitHub, but they probably don't make for good first issues. So things like we have our base node repo and stuff like that. They're probably a bit more complex, but if you're feeling ambitious, you can contribute to those as well, obviously. But I think the base-org GitHub repo /web for our documentation site is a really good it's a really good place and opportunity to start for contributing, and all the instructions to run that are in the README.
Perfect. I'm going to be a part of the 1 million devs. Yes, sir. That's perfect. I know you can't see me right now, but I was just smiling at that comment. Enjoying Basecamp. Absolutely. Shout out Taylor. Thank you, Tana. Um, how are good first issues decided on base? What if somebody can do more than the good first issues? I'll take this real quick. So, as I mentioned before, if you feel confident, if you can do more than good first issues, they are valid submissions as far as the challenge is concerned. So definitely feel free to do that. The issue tracker that we have on the website is designed to only track good first issues to target more beginners. But obviously, if you have more experience and you want to tackle more than good first issues, absolutely feel free to do that. They will be counted towards the challenge as valid submissions. Um, the tracker is just intentionally restricted to only track good first issues. Um, there's a question, could you share the docs again for running a node?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and share that. Let me find that for you.
Question. NFTs, what NFTs? So I believe Basecamp has NFTs as you do the courses. Also, if you're doing courses at Learn Web3 or even just part of this challenge, as you do these GitHub PRs and as those PRs get merged and your contributions get tracked, there's also NFTs for that. And at the end of the day, when the challenge is over, um, there will be like overall NFTs that you'll be getting. So a bunch of different NFTs going out. There's NFTs from Basecamp, NFTs from Learn Web3, NFTs from Onchain Squad, all of which you will be claiming over time as you go through this. Perfect. It's 11:31. So we're gonna start wrapping this up. Are there any? We'll take maybe like one more question, and if anybody has any, otherwise we can just ask on chat afterwards. Taylor, do you have anything to say to the audience before we wrap up?
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to come present base to you guys. And yeah, if you guys have any questions throughout the day, just let me know. You can feel free to tag me, ping me. I'll be more than happy to help you guys. But yeah, thank you guys for the opportunity to come here and speak with you. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thank you for being here. And yeah, love to see everything that's happening. Cool. Okay. We're going to stop the recording now.